Most people are taught that the speed of light is just a number, a rule written into physics textbooks. Nothing goes faster than light, end of story. But that explanation hides something far more unsettling. The truth is that light speed isn't just a rule imposed on the universe. It behaves more like a structural boundary, a built-in trapdoor in reality itself. And once you start to see it that way, many familiar ideas about motion, time, and causality stop feeling solid. To understand why light speed is a limit of reality, we need to step away from everyday intuition. In normal life, speed feels relative and flexible. You can always go a little faster by adding more energy. Cars accelerate, planes accelerate, rockets accelerate. Our instincts tell us there should always be more speed available. But the speed of light is different. No matter how much energy you add, objects with mass never reach it. That alone hints that light speed is not just another rule, but something fundamental. This is why physicists say light speed is not just a rule. It isn't enforced by an external authority. It emerges from how space and time themselves are structured. According to relativity, space and time are not separate things. They are woven together into space-time. The speed of light is the conversion rate between space and time, the maximum speed at which cause and effect can travel. Change that number, and reality stops functioning the way it does. So why nothing can exceed the speed of light becomes clearer when you see light speed as a boundary of structure, not a speed limit sign. As objects move faster through space, they move more slowly through time. This isn't a metaphor, it's a measurable effect. Clocks slow down, lengths shrink, cause and effect stretch. This is the beginning of what people mean when they talk about speed of light and time distortion. Here's where the trapdoor idea starts to make sense. As you approach the speed of light, time slows down relative to everything else. From the outside, the moving object's clock nearly freezes. From the object's perspective, space in front of it compresses. At the exact speed of light, the equations break. Time no longer progresses, distance collapses. The concept of moving forward loses meaning. That's why asking what happens at the speed of light leads to paradoxes rather than answers. This is often called the speed of light trapdoor theory. Not as an official scientific term, but as an intuitive way to describe the effect. Reality seems to close off certain paths. You can approach the door, but you can never step through it if you have mass. The closer you get, the stranger things become, until familiar concepts simply fail. It's not that the universe forbids you from going faster, it's that the universe no longer defines what faster even means. This helps explain why time slows near light speed. Time isn't an independent backdrop ticking away everywhere equally. It's part of the same structure that limits speed. As motion through space increases, motion through time decreases. At light speed, all motion is through space and none is through time. That's not a rule layered on top of physics. That is physics. This is also why Einstein relativity explained simply often feels unintuitive. Our brains evolved in a slow-moving world. We're used to time being absolute and space being fixed. Relativity flips that assumption. Space and time bend to preserve the speed of light as a constant. The universe reorganizes itself so that light speed remains unchanged for all observers, no matter how fast they move. When people ask, is light speed a fundamental limit? The answer is yes, but not in the way a wall is a limit. Walls stop you because something blocks your path. Light speed stops you because it marks the edge of definable motion. Beyond it, the equations don't describe reality as we know it. That's why physicists treat it as one of the fundamental limits of the universe. This also reveals the hidden meaning of light speed. It's not about light itself. Light just happens to travel at that speed because it has no mass. The deeper point is that light speed sets the maximum rate at which reality can update itself. Information, causality, and change all obey this limit. Without it, cause and effect could reverse. Paradoxes would multiply. Reality would tear itself apart. Seen this way, the physics of the speed of light is really the physics of consistency. The universe uses this limit to protect its own structure. It ensures that events happen in an order, that effects follow causes, and that observers can agree on what happened, even if they disagree on when it happened. For beginners, speed of light explained for beginners often focuses on photons racing through space, but the deeper explanation is about space-time itself enforcing coherence. Light speed is the stitching that holds space and time together. Remove it, and the fabric unravels. This brings us to space-time reality limits. The speed of light is not negotiable because it defines the shape of space-time. Every object moves through space-time at the same total speed. If you move faster through space, you move slower through time. This balance is what keeps reality internally consistent. So when you hear that light speed is a rule, that description is incomplete. It's more accurate to say light speed is a doorway you can approach but never pass, a boundary that reveals how reality is built. And the closer you look at that boundary, the more unsettling questions appear. Because if light speed is a trapdoor in reality, the next question isn't how fast we can go. The real question is what reality is protecting us from beyond it. If the speed of light is a trapdoor built into reality, the natural next question is why such a door exists at all. What exactly breaks if it were removed? To answer that, we need to look deeper at what space-time is doing behind the scenes. The unsettling truth is that light speed is not protecting us from something external. It is protecting reality from itself. To see this, return to the idea that all objects move through space-time at a constant total rate. Even when you are sitting still, you are moving through time. As you accelerate through space, you must give up some of that motion through time. This trade-off is unavoidable. It is not a rule chosen by physicists. It is baked into the geometry of space-time. This is the deeper reason why light speed is a limit of reality. As you approach light speed, time dilation becomes extreme. Clocks slow, processes stretch, and cause and effect drift apart. This is not just a measurement issue. It changes how events connect. If time slowed differently for different causes, effects could arrive before their causes that would shatter the logic of reality. This is one reason why nothing can exceed the speed of light. Beyond that boundary, causality itself stops being well-defined. This is where the trapdoor analogy becomes unavoidable. At light speed, time does not merely slow, it collapses. From the perspective of a massless particle like a photon, there is no passage of time at all. Emission and absorption are not separated by moments. They are the same event. That insight alone hints at something profound about what happens at the speed of light. It is not a place you arrive at. It is a boundary where the concept of arrival dissolves. This leads directly to speed of light and time distortion. The closer you get to light speed, the more the universe rearranges itself to prevent contradictions. Length contracts, time dilates, simultaneity breaks down. Observers disagree on what happens first, yet causality remains intact. This balancing act is not arbitrary. It is space-time enforcing consistency. This is why physicists insist light speed is not just a rule. If it were merely a rule, breaking it would produce faster travel, not logical collapse. But exceeding light speed would allow signals to arrive before they were sent in some frames of reference. This is not speculation. It falls straight out of relativity. Faster than light motion opens paths backward through time. The universe appears to forbid this not by policing motion, but by making such motion undefined. This brings us back to the speed of light trapdoor theory as a metaphor. A trapdoor does not block you with force. It removes the floor beneath you. At light speed, familiar coordinates lose meaning. Time ceases to function as a sequence. Space ceases to behave like distance. Motion stops being describable. You don't hit a wall. You lose the structure that makes motion intelligible. This also explains why time slows near light speed in such a precise way. Time is not slowing because something resists motion. It slows because space-time must stretch to preserve causality. Every observer must measure light moving at the same speed. To maintain that, time and space must bend. This bending is not optional. It is the mechanism that keeps reality from tearing itself apart. When people hear Einstein relativity explained simply, they often focus on clocks and rulers changing, but the deeper lesson is about limits. Relativity shows that space-time has a built-in maximum rate of causal influence. Light speed defines how fast information can propagate. Remove that cap and effects can outrun causes. Reality would no longer have a consistent story. This is why physicists argue that is light speed a fundamental limit is the wrong question. The right question is what kind of universe requires such a limit? The answer appears to be any universe that allows cause and effect to exist at all. Light speed is the scaffolding that holds events together in a coherent order. This reveals the hidden meaning of light speed. It is not about photons racing through the void. It is about the universe preserving narrative consistency. Events must happen in a way that observers can reconstruct without paradox. Light speed enforces that constraint. It is the maximum speed at which reality can safely update itself. Seen this way, the physics of the speed of light becomes the physics of protection. The universe protects causality, chronology, and coherence by enforcing this limit. Faster than light motion would allow closed loops in time, contradictions, and self-negating events. Instead of allowing that, space-time reshapes itself so those paths simply do not exist. This is also why fundamental limits of the universe often appear as constants rather than rules. Constants do not need enforcement. They define the space of possibilities. The speed of light is one such constant. It defines what kinds of motion, communication, and causation are possible. For those new to the topic, speed of light explained for beginners often misses this point. The real story is not about speed, it is about structure. Light speed marks the edge of what space-time can support without logical failure. Beyond it lies not faster travel, but the breakdown of meaning, which brings us back to the unsettling implication. If light speed is a trap door, then reality is not open-ended. It has boundaries not just of distance, but of sense. There are regions of possibility that are closed, not because we lack technology, but because entering them would dissolve the framework that makes experience possible. And that leaves one final question hanging. If the speed of light defines the limits of space-time itself, what does that say about the nature of reality beyond those limits? And why does the universe insist on keeping us on this side of the door? If the speed of light marks a boundary that space-time refuses to let us cross, then the next question becomes deeply philosophical as well as physical. What kind of reality needs such a boundary in the first place? To explore that, we have to shift perspective. Instead of asking how fast things can move, we need to ask what reality is made of and how it maintains coherence. At its core, physics is about relationships. Events relate to one another through cause and effect. One thing happens, then another follows. That ordering is not optional. Without it, there is no story, no prediction, no memory. The speed of light is what makes this ordering possible. This is another layer of why light speed is a limit of reality. It preserves a universal structure where causes remain causes and effects remain effects, even when observers disagree on timing. Consider what would happen if signals could travel faster than light. In some frames of reference, an effect would be observed before its cause. This isn't science fiction. It's a direct consequence of relativity. Once faster than light motion exists, time ordering becomes observer-dependent in a destructive way. You could create loops where information changes its own origin. This is why nothing can exceed the speed of light is not just about energy or technology. It is about preventing logical collapse. This makes the universe feel strangely conservative. It allows enormous freedom within boundaries, but refuses to compromise on structure. The speed of light trap door theory fits here again. Reality does not actively stop you with force. Instead, it defines a space where meaningful events can exist and simply excludes everything else. Beyond light speed, space-time no longer supports a consistent sequence of events. This sheds light on what happens at the speed of light conceptually. It is not a finish line. It is a point where the coordinates we use to describe reality fail. Time ceases to behave as duration. Space ceases to behave as distance. The tools we rely on lose their grip. That is why approaching light speed produces infinite energy requirements for massive objects. It's not resistance, it's divergence. The math itself refuses to cooperate. This also deepens our understanding of speed of light and time distortion. Time dilation is not a side effect. It is the mechanism space-time uses to protect causality. As velocity increases, time stretches so that light remains the fastest possible signal. This ensures that information flow remains consistent. Without this stretching, the causal structure of the universe would fracture. When people hear Einstein relativity explained simply, they often focus on visual effects like moving clocks or contracted rulers. But the deeper takeaway is that space-time is dynamic. It adjusts itself to preserve fundamental relationships. The speed of light is the anchor point around which those adjustments occur. This is why light speed is not just a rule written into equations. Rules can be broken. Structures cannot. Light speed defines the geometry of space-time itself. It tells space-time how to bend, stretch, and connect events. Changing it would not produce a slightly different universe. It would produce a universe with entirely different logic. At this point, the hidden meaning of light speed becomes clearer. It is not about motion, it is about coherence. Light speed defines the maximum rate at which reality can remain self-consistent. It is the speed limit of meaning itself. Faster than that, and cause, effect, and identity blur together. This perspective reframes the question: is light speed a fundamental limit? Yes, but not because it limits us. It limits contradiction. It ensures that events have definite relationships. It guarantees that observers, no matter how they move, can reconstruct a consistent history of the universe. Seen this way, the physics of the speed of light becomes less about particles and more about protection. The universe protects narrative order, logical consistency, and the possibility of experience. Light speed is the guardrail that keeps reality from slipping into paradox. This also connects to fundamental limits of the universe more broadly. Limits like the speed of light, absolute zero, or the Planck scale are not arbitrary. They mark transitions where familiar concepts stop applying. They are signposts telling us where intuition fails and deeper structure takes over. For those encountering this for the first time, speed of light explained for beginners should emphasize this point. Light speed is not special because light is special. Light is special because it reveals how space-time works. Massless particles move at the maximum speed space-time allows because they are not constrained by time in the same way massive objects are. This brings us to an unsettling implication. If space-time enforces limits so strictly, then reality may be less open than we assume. Not everything that can be imagined can exist. Some possibilities are excluded not by lack of technology, but by lack of coherence. The universe seems to favor consistency over freedom. And yet this also hints at something profound. If light speed defines the boundary of meaningful motion, then it also defines the arena in which all experience unfolds. Everything we know, remember, or predict exists within this structure. The trapdoor is not there to tease us. It is there to make reality possible at all, which leaves us with a final, uncomfortable thought. If the speed of light marks the edge of space-time's ability to remain coherent, then whatever lies beyond that edge is not just unreachable. It may be fundamentally unknowable, not because it is far away, but because the concepts we use to know anything simply do not apply there. And that raises the deepest question yet. If reality enforces such strict limits to preserve itself, what does that say about the nature of existence itself? And why is coherence chosen over possibility? If the speed of light defines the boundary where space-time remains coherent, then the final step is to confront what that boundary implies about reality itself. Not just how the universe behaves, but why it behaves this way at all. By now, it should be clear that the speed of light is not an arbitrary ceiling. It is a condition for existence as we experience it. One way to see this is to think about information. Every physical interaction is an exchange of information. Forces transmit influence. Particles exchange momentum. Observers receive signals. The speed of light is the maximum rate at which this information can propagate. That is the deepest reason why light speed is a limit of reality. It sets the tempo at which the universe can communicate with itself. If information could move infinitely fast, the universe would lose locality. Events would no longer be tied to places. Everything would influence everything else instantly. In such a universe, structure would dissolve. There would be no stable systems, no persistence, no separation between cause and effect. The speed of light prevents this collapse by enforcing delays. Those delays are not flaws. They are what allow complexity to exist. This reframes why nothing can exceed the speed of light in a new way. Faster than light motion would not simply be faster messaging. It would be a violation of the universe's ability to separate events into a meaningful order. Space-time would no longer be able to assign consistent relationships. The result would not be freedom, but chaos. This is why the speed of light trapdoor theory resonates so strongly. The trapdoor is not hiding something exciting beyond it. It is hiding nothingness in the conceptual sense. Beyond light speed, the categories we rely on collapse. Time does not flow. Distance does not measure. Identity does not persist. The trapdoor protects reality from entering a state where description itself fails. This also explains what happens at the speed of light from a deeper perspective. It is not a destination because destinations require time. It is not a state because states require duration. Light speed is the boundary where time ceases to be available as a resource. That is why massive objects cannot reach it. They require time to exist as objects. This makes speed of light and time distortion more than a curiosity. Time dilation is how the universe meters access to time. As speed increases, time becomes more scarce. At light speed, time availability drops to zero. That is not punishment. It is bookkeeping. The universe balances its accounts by conserving causal order. Seen this way, light speed is not just a rule, but a conservation law for coherence. Just as energy conservation prevents impossible processes, light speed conservation prevents impossible histories. It ensures that the universe can always be told as a story without contradiction. This brings us to the role of observers. In relativity, different observers disagree about time and space, but they agree about causality. This is not accidental. It is engineered into space-time itself. Einstein relativity explained simply shows that space-time will sacrifice absolute time and absolute space to preserve absolute causation. Light speed is the lever that makes this possible. This is also why, as light speed, a fundamental limit feels less like a restriction and more like a requirement. Without it, there is no shared reality. Observers could not reconcile their experiences. Physics would not be predictive. Memory and anticipation would fail. Reality would fragment into incompatible narratives. At this point, the hidden meaning of light speed becomes unavoidable. It is the speed of agreement. It defines how fast observers can come to consensus about what happened. Without that limit, there would be no objective past, only conflicting versions with no way to reconcile them. This perspective also clarifies the physics of the speed of light as a theory of stability. The universe prioritizes consistency over extremity. It allows vast ranges of motion, energy, and transformation, but it draws the line where contradictions would emerge. That line happens to coincide with the speed of light. This pattern appears again and again in the fundamental limits of the universe. Absolute zero prevents infinite extraction of energy. The Planck scale prevents infinite compression of information. The speed of light prevents infinite acceleration of causality. These limits are not annoyances. They are the architecture of possibility. For those encountering this idea fresh, speed of light explained for beginners should emphasize this philosophical shift. The speed of light is not about light. It is about the universe protecting the conditions under which anything can exist, interact, and be known. And this leads to the final implication. If reality enforces limits so carefully, then existence itself may be fragile. Not fragile in the sense of easily destroyed, but fragile in the sense that it depends on precise constraints. Relax those constraints, and reality does not become richer. It becomes incoherent. The speed of light, then, is not a challenge daring us to overcome it. It is a signature of a universe that values order over excess. It is a reminder that not all barriers are meant to be crossed. Some are meant to define the space in which meaning can exist. So when we say that light speed is a trapdoor in reality, we are not saying there is something waiting on the other side. We are saying that reality itself ends there, not in space, but in sense. Beyond that boundary, the rules do not merely change. The idea of rules dissolves. And perhaps that is the most unsettling conclusion of all. The ultimate limit of speed is not about how fast we can travel. It is about how far reality can go without losing itself.